Hey, hi everyone. Myself Hanuman. In my previous video, I explained about different types of machine learning techniques, and so today I'll try to cover the data pre-processing. If you want to use any of the machine learning techniques, okay. So a quick recap of the previous video is different types of machine learning techniques. They are like the supervised and unsupervised learning, and semi-supervised learning, and reinforcement learning. Okay. So supervised learning primarily we'll be using, so when you have some data and so you want to utilize that data and project a value. Consider maybe you have some housing data, and you are trying to project housing projection, housing value projections. So in those cases you will be using the supervised learning. Okay. And unsupervised learning is primarily so when you have some data, and if you want to group the data, and so there is no predefined number of groups that is there. So in those cases you will be using the unsupervised learning. So semi supervised learning is, it's a combination of both supervised learning and unsupervised learning. And reinforcement learning is you don't have any data and you want to train the model and test the model. It's trial and error method. You are building some algorithm based on this one. Okay. So those are if you want to a little detail about these things, maybe you can go to my previous video. Otherwise maybe you can continue in this one. Okay. So for any algorithm, so for any machine learning technique, right, so you need to have some data apart from the reinforcement learning. So maybe we'll discuss that later. But for any of these three machine learning techniques, supervised or unsupervised or semi-supervised, so we need to have some data, right? So that is the primary thing. So how the machines will learn, maybe will be so it's learned based on the past data. So that means you need some data to utilize the data, and maybe by using the data we'll be doing some projections. Okay. So I'll be using the Kaggle data. Okay. So here from here maybe so we can get a number of data sets so that which is used for the machine learning techniques. If you want to do some POCs, or maybe if you are a fresher learning like me, you can go to this website and download a data set. So for this exercise I've already downloaded a housing data. Maybe so let me search for some housing data. Okay. So there are so housing price data and California housing data, housing price data set. Maybe so there are a number of data sets that this is providing. You can download any data set, and maybe so you can uh, experiment on that one. Okay. So suppose if you open any data set, right, it will be mostly a CSV file, and people have already downloaded this data and maybe so done maybe kind of POC they might have uploaded to here. You can go to the code and see if you take any of these things, maybe so okay. So these guys downloaded and did some experimenting on this pre-processing and maybe post-processing, and took some day used that used the data for training and for testing purpose. Okay. So we'll discuss, so today we'll discuss about the pre-processing or data pre-processing. So why the data pre-processing is needed. Maybe so consider so you dump the data from some multiple places. So in this case say I downloaded a housing prices CSV from the Kaggle, but so in general so you might be so dumping the data from so different data sources in real time, right? Maybe so you will be collecting the data from different data sources. Okay. So first you need to validate whether the data is properly aligned, or maybe so whether the data is properly set. That can be used any of the machine learning techniques. So there are so different kinds of pre-processing techniques. So one is maybe so just consider so you have a so some thousand records, right? So thousand records in the data, and let's take this as example, maybe housing pricing. So housing pricing is maybe so if you want to value a house, so what are the major requirements, so you consider so it is having some thousand records. So what is the size of this house? right? So this is one criteria, right? And like, so what is the area? Maybe like, so based on the area also, like, so the house price vary. Maybe like, so if it is near to the school district, maybe like, so it will be like, so little high. If it is like, so far from the maybe city, so the price will be like, so little low. So that's the reason this is also one of the criteria. And size is one, and area is one, and maybe like, so different kinds of parameter, like, so if it is new house or like, so old house, maybe like, so new construction or old one, like, so based on that also the price might be like, so vary, right? So these are the things. So these are the primary things that you need to you should work on it, right? Consider like, so you have some thousand records, and in these thousand records, so first we need to make sure like, so all these parameters are there. Maybe like the house of the size of that house is there, and the area of that house is there, and maybe like, so is it construction type is like, so new or old, these kind of things. So if something is like, not there, maybe like, so if the house is, if the size is not there, like, so how to fill the data? Maybe like, so if the area is like, so not there, maybe like, so how to what should we do it? Maybe like, so if the if the construction type is not there, maybe like, so it's old or new. So what kind of things that we have to do, maybe like, so right? So those kind of things, like, so we need to first like, so correct the data. If some size is missing, like, so what we have to do? Maybe like, so if area is missing, what we have to do? Like, so if the type of house is like, so missing, maybe like, so what we have to do? Like, so the data pre-processing tells like, so these things, like, okay. So if you have any missing data, maybe like, so you can fill it with the existing data. That means like, so let me derive it. Suppose you have some thousand records in the data sheet. So for five, maybe for five records, consider like, so for five records, so the size is missing, okay. So what we will be doing is like, so either we will remove the five records. So the data pre-processing says either remove the five records, or maybe like, so take a like, so median, or maybe like, so mean of the area, and fill those values. So that means maybe like, suppose if a house is having some 1,000 square feet, or maybe like, so some 5,000 square feet, or maybe like, so 2,000 square feet, like this, right? So generally like, so the sizes will be like this, maybe like, so 1,000, 2,000, or maybe like, so consider it as a 3,000, okay. And some one house is like, so doesn't have any data, right? Like, so consider like, so it doesn't have any data. So what you can do in these scenarios, so either like, so you can remove it, okay. So remove this record from the complete data set. That means like, so you will have then 999 records. So once you remove one record, right? Or maybe like, so what you can do, like, so you can take the mean of all these the column, and substitute this value with the mean value. That means like, so what is the mean value? Mean means payment average value. Like, so 1 plus 5 plus 8 by 3 is around, sorry, yeah, 1 2 3. So yeah, 8 by 3 is around maybe like, so 2 yeah, 2.5 something, right? So either replace the value with the 2.5, this is one way, or maybe like, so replace the value either like, so remove this record. So maybe like, so so there are also multiple scenarios, right? Maybe like, so if, yeah, so either you can do the remove, or maybe like the replace, okay. And so we have to see, we'll see maybe like, so what we can do, like, so what is this mean, and how to replace this data, okay. And since this is a like size, right? Maybe like, so since it is an integer number, like, so we are calculating the mean value, and like, so trying to replace it with this one, okay. And suppose like, so if the area, so area is also missing, maybe like, so area may be like, so town A, or maybe like, so town B, something like that, right? Okay. So if area is also missing, so what we can do, like, so this is a string field, right? So we can do what we can do is like, so we can take a maximum number of okay, so we can consider one area, like, so which is having the maximum number of records. So suppose like, so in these 1,000 records, suppose if 500 houses are belongs to maybe like so a particular area A, right? Okay, and maybe like so 200 records are related to maybe like so area B. Okay, if the 300 records are maybe like so related to area C, okay, maybe like the remaining 100 records. Okay, so for whatever the data that is missing for area, right, like so either you can replace that with the A, okay, or maybe like so you can delete this records whichever is empty. Okay, and in the like so the type of construction as well, maybe like so it is like maybe like so new construction or maybe like old construction, right? Like so out of these thousands you can calculate, or maybe like so you can get like so which one is having higher priority, or maybe like so what are the major records, maybe like the major houses, whether they are the new or maybe like so whether they are old. Either so you can replace the data with either new based on the majority of the houses in your data, or maybe like so you can replace if the majority of the houses are having old, either like so you can replace that with the old, or maybe like the third option is like so removing with the removing this data. Okay, so generally removing the data, the data science doesn't suggest to like so remove the data. Okay, unless right, like so suppose so unless maybe like so if there are like a lot of values that are like so removed, or maybe like sorry, so if the lot of values like so that are missing, unless in that case maybe like you will not remove the data, or maybe like so you will be going into the you will be checking with the data model analyst and see like so what you want to do for these records. Okay, so let me go back to the data set, so which I have downloaded as housing prices data, housing prices. So let me run it, maybe like so get the few records. So we will be like so here like so we will be starting using the pandas and maybe like the numpys and all these like so whatever the Python essentials, right? So here I'm using the panda to read the data from the CSV. Okay, so the CSV file I mentioned here, and so if you want to read the CSV file, like so we need to use pd.read CSV. So that means it will read the CSV file and the df.head. So the df.head means it will list only the 5 or top 5 records within the data. Like so let me execute this one to see. All right, so it is displaying the data, like, and it is having like so index, title, description, amount in rupees. Okay, and the price in rupees, location is current area, okay, sorry, carpet area, status, floor, transaction, fencing, overlooking, society, bathroom, and maybe like so there are like multiple parameters that are there in the data set, right? So there are like multiple properties. Okay, suppose if I want to see like so how many records this my data is having, like so let me execute it. Like so df.shape means like so it will give the number of rows and number of columns. Okay, so my data set is having around like so around 1,187,531 records, rows, and 21 columns. Okay, so I just want to see like so what is the data, maybe like so how many, okay, is there are any null values in the data, and like so do we need to use all columns? So we don't need to certainly like use all columns, right? Maybe like so let me see like so how many columns that are having some null. Okay, so the description, we don't need to use the description, and amount is like so exist in all the data, all the rows, so, but the price is missing in 17,000 rows. Okay, location is exist, carpet area is like so missing in 80,000 records out of like so 1,80,000, and status is like so status is like so missing in 615, floor is missing in 707,000 records, transaction and furnishing and fencing and all these things. So these are the data, right? The floor area is sorry, the plot area doesn't exist for any of the records. Dimensions also doesn't exist, and super area is also like so doesn't, like for majority of the records it is missing, right? Okay, so but yeah, like so for majority for to calculate a house price, I feel like maybe like so the price is mandatory and the amount is like the mandatory and the location is mandatory. So these three are there. Okay, and the carpet area is also like people will see like say what is the carpet area, and maybe like say based on that also they will be like taking decisions. But yeah, like so since uh, for like the more than 40% of the records the data is not there, like so we will not use this data like so when calculating the house price. So okay, so we can ignore this data. Okay, if the data is there for maybe like so, at least like so 90% or maybe like 85%, like so we should have filled the data using this concept. Maybe like so if it is integer one, maybe like so we would have filled with the mean values, and maybe if it is a string field, maybe like so we would have taken whatever the maximum occurrences and we would have filled that data. But yeah, since for majority of the data, for almost like the 40% of the data is missing, like so we'll not consider this for the housing price projections. Okay, status is there. Floor is okay, maybe like so for almost like so for 90% of the data the floor value is there, but for 10% I'll say like so for 10% it is not there. But yeah, like so we'll try to uh, refill the data like using this concept, maybe like using the mean. Okay, and okay, so let me like so remove the columns like so which are not unnecessary for our data, right? Like so plot area is not is null for like so most of the record, for all of the records. Dimensions, super area, okay, ownership, like so these also missing for like some majority of the 40%, and we will not use this car parking also like some missing for more than 40%. So if it is like some if the data is missing for more than 30, like so the data science says like so don't consider that for in your calculations. Okay, so if it is like maybe 10%, maybe like so if it is 20%, maybe like so you can fill the data. If it is like so more than 30%, try to avoid that column, or maybe like say avoid that value to consider like so when you are doing the housing projections, right? Like so we'll try to remove the columns. We don't need this data. So that means like so within only this object, like so the data the columns will be like so deleted. It is very simple using the pandas. So you can use a column name, like so just drop the a single column, or maybe like so you can give like some multiple columns as well. So if I execute it, okay, so then again I was like so I'm printing the data dot shape. Okay, so earlier like so it was given around 21 columns. So once I execute it, so it will give like the 14 columns. So I I removed all of these columns. Again, like so let me see like so what is my data, right? So it is like to see the data, df dot head. Okay, so majority of the columns are deleted and the ownership. Okay, so then what we can do is, okay, so we'll see. Okay, so the types of columns. So, okay, so the types of data is like so for prices it is the float. Okay, so for float or integer what we can do, like so we can take the mean value and replace the data with this one. Okay, so for that, so the price is like kind of yeah, the price is around for 15 or 15% of the data, like so it is missing. So what we need to do is like so we can do this calculation, and since that is an integer value, right, integer value, so what we'll do, we'll calculate the mean average of the price and replace the missing columns with the mean value. So that means like so. Okay, so let me come back here, and the type of that column is this one. Okay, so here what we are doing is like so we are replacing the okay, price in rupees, that is the column, like so that it is missing some of the values, right? So price in rupees is like so for 17,665 rows the data is missing. So now what we'll do, like, so we'll calculate the mean of that one. Maybe like, so we'll calculate the mean of that one and fill not available data. Okay, so what we are doing here, like, so we are taking, so we are filling all these 17,655 rows with the mean of the same column data. That means, like, so it will calculate the mean value for this column, and replace that value with this one. Okay, suppose, like, so NaN is there, the third record is having NaN. Maybe, like, so let's see, like, so what is the mean, and maybe, like, so what is the value it is going to replace. So we'll see the data. Okay, so once I execute this one, okay, so okay, it has, like, so replaced it. Then we'll see, like, so what is my data now, right? Df dot data. Sorry, head. It's okay. So if you see, it is replaced with the mean value for third record. Okay, so the mean value, the average of all these things is maybe, like, so 7583 dot some value. This is a boolean value, right? So earlier, like, so in previous, earlier, like, so it is having NaN. Now we replace that value with the mean value. Okay, so in this like a similar way, right? Maybe like the floor is also having, like, so we need to replace the floor value, and the carpet, like, so we will not use it because, like, so it's for more than 40% of the data it is missing, like, so okay, we don't use that. Furnishing, I think, like, so we can use it, maybe, like, so okay, yeah, furnishing, like, so we can use it. Okay, so here what we did, like, so we replaced the okay, sorry, here we replaced the floor price with the mean value, right? Okay, so then again, like, okay, so the next one is, so the data is having, like, the 42 lakhs, 98 lakhs, maybe like the 1.44 crore, so, and 1.6 crore, something like this. So what I'm doing in the next step is, like, so I'm in the pre-processing step, like, so the system will understand only the integers, or maybe like only the numeric values, or maybe like, so it needs to convert into the a value, right? So we know, like, so 42 lakhs is some, maybe like, so 42 maybe like 4.2 millions, and 98 lakhs is, like, so 9.8 millions. By reading, like, so we can say, but yeah, like, the system will not be able to understand this language 42 lakh. So what I'm doing is, like, so I'm replacing this one with, like, maybe like the exact number of amount 4.2 millions, here also 9.8 millions, 1 crore, 1.14 million, something like this. So for this, like, so we I'm, like, so wherever that crore is there, I'm, like, so multiplying that with the 10 millions, and like, so if it is, like, so lakhs, I'm multiplying with the 0.1 million. Okay, so then when I execute this logic, so what it will do is, like, so it will replace, so and again, like, so I'm replacing the crore with empty string and lakh with empty string, and multiplying the exact value with this one, right? So after this one, so what we'll do is, okay, so the 42 lakh is replaced with the 42 sorry, the exact amount instead of, maybe like, so 42 space like. Okay, and there is, like, so some more thing, the outliers. Okay, so these also comes under a pre-processing, right? Maybe like, so there are some 1,000 records, or like, so let me say, take a sample simple data, right? So clear, like, so there is some like, so let's take 5 records. Okay, so one record is having 100, and some record is having 2,200, some record is having 300, some record is having 400, some record is having 500. So among all these values, so outliers means, maybe like, so it'll a value that looks an abnormal, maybe like, so within your data set, or maybe like, so it doesn't fit to the it doesn't fit for your, like, so data set. So among all these values, like, so which value doesn't look good, maybe like, so my all my data set is having like some 200 300, it is like in the hundreds range, right? But yeah, like so one value is like so 1000, right? So when we are using the data when we are using the machine learning techniques, so we need to avoid using the outliers. So that means like so whatever the data that is like so not within the range, okay, not within the range, so we need to avoid like so removing all this data, right? So 1000 is not like so not suitable for my data set. Suppose if there is any value, consider like maybe like so minus 500, something like this, right? So there is one more value, like so this one will call as upper outlier, and maybe like so this one will call as the lower outlier data, okay? So when you are in the as part of the pre-processing, like so what we have to do is like so either like so we need to remove these two records, whatever that is like so lower range, and we need to remove the data which is in the upper range as well, okay? So for that one, like so uh, there is like so different techniques, okay? So for this is for simple data, we will be like so able to easily identify what is the outlier, and maybe like, since it is having only 6 records, but yeah, like so for my data set, like so whatever the data set I have taken, it is having around 1,70,000, right? So it is very difficult for me to go and each and every record and do these things. So for this one, like so the Python provides a method, or maybe like so what generally we will be like so doing is like so box plotting, so or maybe like the standard deviation. Okay, so box plotting means maybe like so your data will be like so divided into 3 parts, maybe like so q1, q1, q2, q3, okay? So consider like so your all the records are maybe like coming, so the upper record is coming around 1000, and the lower record is coming is around 500, right? Okay, so in the box plotting, what it will say is, like so if you were like the q3 minus q1, okay, q3 minus q1, maybe like so in this case consider like the 500 is the q3, okay, and in this case the q1 is like the 200. So this is like your data range, right? So what is the mean value of this one? So the mean value of this one is, okay, uh, 500 plus 200, 350, 350, right? So the mean value of this one is 350, okay? So what it says is like, okay, so if your value is 500 plus 350, okay, into 1.5, okay? So that means if your data is having like this, maybe like so 500 plus 350 into 1.5, like so this one will be called as the outlier, okay? I think okay, sorry, my bad. Like so it is not like the average of these two things, maybe like so it's the average of all the data. So it's, if it is average of all the data, so that means maybe like so 5 4 3 2 9 12 14, 14 by 3 is like around 3, sorry, 14 by 4 is around like so 300, right? Again like so, yeah, so 500 plus 300 into maybe like so 1.5. so if it is, if the value is like so greater than 1.5%, then like so you should not consider this one, okay? And if that one will be called as a lower outbound, sorry, upper outbound. And if it is like the lesser than the lower value, that means like 200 minus 300 into like 1.5. So that if that is like if the lower bound is called as a the lowest value minus 250, right? So in those cases, like so that one will be considered as the lower outbound, okay? I have written some method, okay? So the Python provides like so detect outliers. So here, so first we will be like so quantile and q1 and q3, like so, okay, IBR is like q1 minus q3. Okay, sorry, yeah, my formula was wrong. Okay, so actually it is like so q3 minus q1 is 300, okay? So then, so what it says is maybe like so q1 is 200 minus 1.5 of quartile, and the upper outbound is like say q3 plus 1.5 of IQR. Okay, interquartile range. So interquartile range means like so the value that whatever that is there, 500 minus 200 is 300. So in this case the 300 will be like interquartile range. So 300 plus 1.5. Okay, so 300 plus 1.5 into IQR. IQR means like so whatever the value that is like so what is that like so that is also like so 300, right? So it is coming around maybe like so 4.5 and 750 or 800. So in that case the 1000 will be like so considered as the outlier. Okay, so like this we have to calculate the outlier. That means like so what, once you plot the data and if any data looks abnormal, not within the range, in those cases like you have to remove the lower bound and upper bounds as well. Okay, so let me calculate here the outliers and outlier amount prices. So there are like so two fields that I'm using it here. So one is the amount and one is the price. Like so if anything looks abnormal, maybe like so we are not going to consider those records. So it is going to give me, when I execute this code, okay, so what it will give is like, okay, so these ranges looks like maybe like so the outliers. So the 13th record maybe like so 4 crores 25 lakhs, something like this, right? So these many of records that are there as the outliers. So either we need to remove these things, or maybe like so we can check with the data scientist and see like so what we can do with this data. Okay, so there is one more way, like so visual representation is maybe like so if you see this graph, like so it's very simple. Like so I'm trying to print the data in the dotted format. Like so consider like so this one looks very like so all the data looks like maybe like somewhere here, but yeah, like so these dots, right? 1 2 3 4 my level. Let me see, like so reduce the size. Okay, so these dots looks like outliers, so that means this is not in the range, right? Like so the general data looks like this, but yeah, like some prices, some housing are having like so higher prices, so we will not consider those things. Okay, yeah, I'll stop it here. And so what we covered is like so today data pre-processing, and like so removing the null values and filling the null values with the mean. Okay, so maybe like so in the next session we will be like so discussing about if it is a string value. Like so consider like so see the data is here, um, floor. So floor is type of a string, right? So we'll replace this one with the maybe one hot encoding or maybe like label encoding, and the next one is um, status. So status also we need to have it. Maybe like so we'll convert this into, instead of a string value, like so we'll put some integer or maybe like a float value here as well. And furnishing is also kind of like so that is needed for housing price calculations, so we'll consider this one as well. In the bathroom any data that is missing for bathrooms, the bathrooms also like so missing some data, right? Like so we will replace that with the mean value of this one. Okay, so yeah, we'll continue in the next session, and thanks for watching. Have a nice day.